So, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us either live in the Zoom room or if you're catching up on YouTube. Thank you for enjoying all four classes so far and hope you're looking forward to this last one. Of course, it's not the last in our language program. We do have our next Beyond Intermediate Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphs booked in for the 20th of January for 5 more classes. So do make sure you book onto that if you would like to continue learning some of the grammatical forms before you're ready to go on to our reading courses, which will be booked in at various points during the year. So hopefully we'll see you in the new year. However, for now, let's get jumping in to this final class. And if I don't see you in other events or other circumstances, or not in our social session after this live class, then I would just like to wish you a very happy holiday season if we don't see you before, as we're now officially in December. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you so much, Joseph Clayton, for your brilliant teaching over the last few weeks. Over to you.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's a nice introduction, as always. Uh, yeah. Um, well, thank you for all sticking it out this long, and I hope I'll see many of you in the next one, or all of you in the next course as well. I've been very impressed with the homework, especially this week's, because this is the first time we've actually been doing sorts of proper texts and long things, and everybody's done really well on those. I've been impressed. Well, let's have a look at it anyway. Now, the first one. Um, I think everybody got this right. There was only one. It's not really a mistake that lots of people did in this one, because I would hope you were listening anyway, because we practically did the first line anyway, actually in class. So it's exactly the same as that. But the thing which a few people did, which is was this one here, and I need to keep saying this actually, because this one, lots of people put this as ibi, like with an I on the end. Now, this is the thing. When you see an I on the end of a verb, an I in brackets, especially when you look it up in the dictionary, that all that means is that it's a weak verb, and this isn't a verb anyway. This is a noun, because this is a kind of person as well, because he's one who is thirsty. This is a participle, isn't it? A man, so water to the one who is thirsty. But you don't need eyes on the end of these things. The eyes are only there to indicate, they shouldn't be written at all. The only one that keeps the eye on the end, because it's actually part of the root, is ready. Remember the verb to give. That's the only one that keeps the eye. If you want to attach anything, for instance, the infinitive of ready is reddit, with a T on the end of it. Whereas the infinitive ibi is just ibet, or iri is just iret. You don't need these eyes on the end of things at all. They're only there to show that this is the thing. You'll see that I don't know if any of you are getting into German grammar books at all on this thing, but the German grammar books like to keep those eyes in as well. But there's absolutely no point, because they are never ever written in the actual Egyptian. So I don't know why they put those eyes in thing at all, but why they keep them in anyway. It seems to me I don't think they should bother doing it at all. They should just write like weak verb or something after it, or the really long-winded Gardner style thing, the tertii infirmii, or quatrii infirmii. Anyway, but that's the only thing that bothers this. But everybody got this absolutely spot on, apart from putting eyes on the end of things, which is not really a mistake, but it's just not, especially not if you're German. But yeah, that this was excellent. So yeah, this was pretty straightforward, really. So it's, I gave bread to the hungry, water to the thirsty, and clothing to the naked. This is kind of on the negative confession. There's a thing called the negative confession that people write on their thing as well, saying I haven't done this, or I haven't not done this. One of the things is I haven't not given bread to the hungry man. I haven't not given water to the thirsty man. I haven't not given water to the naked man. It's usually the other way around. I haven't not done this. Like a double negative. They sound really weird to us in English, but it's in Egyptian they work quite well. So, right. Anyway, second homework, which everybody attempted. I was well impressed with this. Everybody attempted it, and it was good. And I say attempted. In fact, most people got it spot on. Now the thing is, we broke it all up last week anyway about this thing. But the main thing is, if we look at the transliteration here, now we've got, this is the thing which tripped some people up here as well. we've got "een," like which is bring. Dot "n" makes it past tense. Brought equals F. He brought. This is what I was looking for because this is what we did in class. So you have the verb, which is "ini," but of course you don't need the idea. It's just show that "n" makes it past tense, and F is the person doing it. So he brought a goose. Now, lots of people had trouble with this next bit as well, because when you look at this, lots of people had variants on "then he brought a goose, cutting off its head," or and cut off its head, or something like that as well. Cutting off its head is nearly a possible translation. That actually is a possible translation, but not a particularly likely one. Cutting off its head, taking that as infinitive. What it actually is the things we were doing in class. See, I don't set you things in for homework that we've not done in class. The idea is to test the things which we've done in class. So what we've got here, see there, we had verb plus "n" plus F. So that makes it past 10. Bring, brought equals F. He brought. Here we've got sever, then we've got its head. So all we've got is verb plus subject. And now it's telling a story. It's in the past narrative. So what we've got, cutting off its head, which is the way you say its head was cut off. That's a passive. Remember, we did those as well. So straightforward. If there's no "n" in it, so you've just got the two things together. It's a passive. So it's just basically "and its head was cut off." Okay. So then again, we've got exactly the same construction. We've got aha.n here. So we've got the verb ready, place. Then we've got straightforward the goose, the demonstrative. So there's no "n" in there, is there? And there's no subject. So there's not ready. If it's ready.n equals F, it will be again, he placed the goose. But it's not. It's placing the goose. So it's the way you do a passive. So it's basically verb plus subject. There's no "n" in it, so it's a passive. So it's basically place was placed. So the goose was placed on the left hand side. Well, this is a translation anyway here. So then he brought a goose and its head was cut off. Remember, there's not really any word for "and" in Egyptian either. You just pile these things together. Then the goose was placed on the right hand or west side of the hall. Now you see it's right hand or west side. Now that sounds a bit weird to us, but remember the Egyptian compass is the opposite way around to our compass. They've got south at the top of it. So the west side for them is not the left as it is for us because we're looking at the north. It's the right hand side, like the west side. Yes, and again, we've got the left hand side as the east side of the hall. This is interesting as well that we've got because everything is based on the Nile and the front of the Nile and like where the Nile flows from. This is the thing. So the south is at the top of the compass. So when they talk about the Euphrates, which flows from north to south rather than south to north like the Nile, they call it the river that flows backwards or the river that flows upside down. It's known as the great wrong way rounder or something like that, with a river determinative on the end of it, or water, river determinative on the end. So it just shows the way they looked at things, everything from an Egyptian point of view. So it's like the Euphrates is the great wrong way round, or the great backwards, or the great upside down river. So, yeah. Now, also, which some people translated this thing, aha.n, een.n equals F. We didn't do this in class. You could translate this as the goose was brought to him. Notice there's no dot there. We've got "to him" in the middle between the subject and the between the verb and the subject. This is a rule which we didn't do at all because it's not that common, these things. But basically, when the subject is a noun and when the object or the indirect object is a pronoun, this is an indirect object for verbs like to bring. So you bring something to somebody, you give something to somebody, you say something to somebody. The "n" plus the pronoun goes between the subject and the verb, but don't worry too much about that one. I explained that to people in the homework who did this, but it's a rule that everyone forgets. But when you transliterate that, it would basically be a passive. If you didn't have "nf" in it like that, it would just be "then the goose was brought and its head was cut off." But if you want to say the goose was brought to him, you have to put the "n equals F" in the middle. So anyway, don't worry too much about that though, but don't come across those so often. but it's just an obscure rule, which several people got by accident. Got the right translation, but if you're going to translate it like that, you need to transliterate it without the dot. Okay, right. Okay, now we're going to look at the Shipwrecked Sailor now. You see, already looking at Egyptian literature. This is an absolute classic of Egyptian literature. I say it's an absolute classic, probably not for the Egyptians. We've only got one copy of it, and even that is not complete. It was originally known as Papyrus Leningrad 1115, but obviously now it's known as Papyrus St. Petersburg 1115. Now, the interesting thing about this papyrus is, as well, see, it's really nicely written. You can see it's got really clear signs. It's quite massive signs as well, which makes it really easy to read. So if you want to start learning hieratic, this is probably one of the best places to start. Not we're going to do anything. Well, we're going to do it in hieratic. Not that we're going to do it in hieratic, but if you do want to start on any hieratic when you get yourself a course, this is the best thing to start on. But anyway, one of the interesting things about this is that nobody has seen this papyrus for a very long time. The last Western person to see it was one of my old professors, Professor Jeffrey Martin, and he saw it in I think 1987, and I think that's the last time anybody has seen it. It's either been lost or wrecked or stolen or something, or they still claim they've got it at the Hermitage, but it's not been seen for a very long time. But anyway, uh, yeah. Now it's one of these things like the Arabian Nights. It's a story within a story within a story, and Jeffrey Martin actually said that when he saw it, because the photographs, like these are all really old photographs, that the top bit of it, the first bit. See, people always debated whether this is the actual beginning of the story. It's designed to look like a story within a story, or whether it's actually part of thing and the rest of it's missing. He said that it's quite clearly at the beginning, when he looked at it, it's quite clearly been cut with a pair of scissors at the beginning, so it is part of a longer thing. This is unfortunately the way like selling papyrus works in like the 19th century and earlier and things. Well, what would happen was that somebody would find like a really long papyrus. This happened with the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. What they would do, they would put a big bit on the market, and everybody would get really excited. So I wonder what happens next. And the person selling it would go, you give them like you cut it up and you put a big bit on first, and then you go like the person that's like, oh, we want to find the rest of it. All the Western Egyptologists would come and they'd say like, oh, we need, well, where's the rest of it? And you'd say like, well, I might be able to get you a bit more of it, but it's going to cost you. Then what they would do, they would give you a smaller bit, but at a much higher price. And then it'd say like, oh, we need to know what happens in this. Then the person saying it would go like, you know what? My brother's cousin's whatever thinks he knows where the other bit is. Then you wait a bit, then you say, look, here we go, here's another bit of it. And then you sell you an even smaller bit at a bigger price. This is basically what they did with the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. Until like the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were selling it basically by the word, more or less. But anyway, then what happens is that they sell a bit to somebody else and then they lose it, or something happens, or their house catches fire, and you end up with losing like half the text forever, or you might not. But interesting thing is, I think I mentioned this the other week, between the dispute between the man and his bar, which same thing happened to that as well. The Marina Escolano Boeda has actually found the beginning of it in an obscure museum in Mallorca. So yeah, so it's not always hopeless that you're not going to find the rest of it. And as I mentioned before, the place where we find most new text now is not in tombs and not in digs, not in excavations, is in the bottom of museums with bits of papyrus they didn't know what they have. They'd forgotten they had it, or just in a box that's never been opened. They found the Tale of the Huntsman not so long ago. There was a box, a bequest from like 1935 or something, which hadn't been looked at properly. And one of the things enlisted was just a papyrus. When they opened it up, it was a classic piece of literature, which nobody had ever seen before. So it was, yeah. So this is where we're finding things now, is stuff in the bottom of museums or in private collections of things that people didn't know they had, or whatever. But this is the beginning of it anyway. But yeah, and as I say, Geoffrey Martin reckons that it's definitely been cut. So it is a story within a story within a story, like the Arabian Nights. And I haven't mentioned this story before. It's basically this sailor who goes on an amazing ship with amazing people, like the greatest sailors in Egypt and the wonderful people who could foretell a storm before it happened, and they were like lions. But the great thing is, it is quite funny actually. So it says, they could foretell a storm before it came. They could tell a breeze before it, and then we got hit by a storm. They didn't foretell it, and the ship got wrecked. So it's just and then he ends up on this magic island with a magic snake who tells him another story, like the story within a story. And then, yeah. But the character of the shipwrecked sailor, he's a bit like the barber in the Arabian Nights, who says things like, oh, I don't talk much, I'm very modest, like I'm famous for my silence and things that, well, this is what the barber says, not the shipwrecked sailor. So, and then he goes on and on about how he then tells an enormously long story, which is basically what the shipwrecked sailor does as well. It might be a much longer story as well, because this is quite possibly it is definitely part of another one, but the shipwrecked sailor story might be part of somebody else's story as well. So you see, it's not a new thing, this Arabian Nights thing. In fact, I think they actually used to call him, well, I don't think I know, they used to call him in the 19th century the Egyptian Sinbad, which is very true because there are a lot of similarities. Again, the story within the story, and also what's a really weird thing which I've noticed, which nobody else seems to notice, because I have the Burton translation of the Arabian Nights, it's in. So is it 12 volumes or something as well from the 19th century, which was privately printed, which is amazing. But it's a really, really nice set of books. But the one of the things in there I noticed in Sinbad when I was reading that is that he always gets saved by a bit of wood. Like every single time gets saved by a bit of wood. And same with the shipwrecked sailor. He also gets saved by a bit of wood. And also he finds a magic island, and Sinbad's always finding magic islands as well. So you can see where the parallels were. But then I think it was like 1985 or something like that, John Baines from, I think he was at Cambridge at the time, wrote this. He wrote this really complicated theological analysis of it, that it wasn't just a great story about magic snakes and daring do and fantasy islands and all kinds of things, but it was a complicated treatise on the id and the is and Egyptian theology, and all these things were symbolic and representative. But and that was seized upon by everybody, and it's now not regarded as a very interesting story, but as a very entertaining story, but as some kind of complicated theological text. Although Baines himself actually said this could be the case, but it probably isn't. Even though he'd written this thing, he says it could be read like this, or it could be like that, but his conclusion was it probably isn't at all. It's probably just a story. But this has been seized on by all the literary critics and all the people as well, that it's not just a story, it's complicated thing. But basically it's like the Arabian Nights, in my opinion. There are things, it does have theological elements in it and stuff as well, like the Arabian Nights. People do their wuzu ablutions, they go to prayers, they go to the things, they go to the mosque on Friday, they do the stuff, they pray to Allah when they see something, or they praise Allah when something goes right and stuff like that. But there's no way you would regard them as religious texts, even though they do have religious elements. And I think that's the same thing with the Shipwrecked Sailor. It has, maybe slightly religious elements in, but yeah. But anyway, this is what this looks like in hieroglyphs, which is this, and this is what we're going to look at today. You see, already on Egyptian literature. This bit's in red. This is the beginning. This is called the rubric, or it's been rubricized. This is an Egyptian thing for rewrite stuff in red at the beginning of chapters or at the beginning of sections and things as well, to show that this is a new section. It's like doing a new title or something, or starting a new paragraph or something. Also in medical texts and things as well, and mathematical texts, lots of important bits are written in red as well. So it's like, things like the measures and stuff as well. So like in experienced surgery, you'll just look at the title is written in red, and then you'll just look at the measures. He doesn't need to have all the disease explained and everything to him, which is all written in black. He just needs to know what the measures are so he can jump straight to those or whatever. Same with the mathematical thing as well. You get the problem in the beginning in red, then your experienced mathematician doesn't need the thing or whatever. He just needs the beginning of each step or whatever, just to check he's doing it right. So yeah, but this one, of course, it starts off with this thing as well. I mean, there's another reason this is also a verb form which we've not done before. It's only used in literature. Only used in literature is also a verb which has to follow on from something else as well, which also indicates that it's the text didn't begin here at all. Right, let's have a look at breaking it up then. Right, let's look for things that we know. Right, well, there's a man there. That's always a good one. Always, generally as well, the red thing is a sentence in itself or a clause in itself or a phrase. Let's have a look at breaking up here. What have we got? We've got Jed there. Remember, I said that's one of the things you should learn. It's the verb to say or to speak. Then we've got what looks like the preposition in, which may or may not be the preposition in, but it certainly looks like it. Then we've got a man here, so this is going to be a type of man, or it could be an equals I, but we haven't got a determinative before it, so it's not going to be a my thing. And we've got this triliteral here. This is a shepherd's crook with his lunch and his blanket and everything tied up on it, and it's a triliteral which is shemes. So we've got shemsu. Where else can we break this up? Then we've got a papyrus roll there. Got another one here. Then we've got that looks like a sensible length for a word, and that looks like a sensible length for a word. Then we've got ideogram there. Oh, look, and straight after we've got a suffix pronoun, and we've got another man there. And you might remember this word. We see it a lot of times in the titles in their Heteptanesian formula and things, and people. It's a pretty common title, that hearty R, so you might recognise that. But anyway, you know it's a kind of man. Right, so we got it broken up now. So we've got Jed, two alphabetic, Een, Shemsu, Iker, three alphabetic signs. We've got We, then we've got Jar, that's a biliteral, which is Jar. And then we've got plus Aleph. So that's going to be a phonetic complement, isn't it? So that's a sensible way for a word. The W isn't in a phonetic complement or anything, so it's Wejar. Okay, then we've got Ebe. Then you remember you join these with an equal sign, so equal X, so it's going to be your mind. Then we've got the heart R. Right, okay, let's have a look. So Jed, Een, Shemsu. This actually starts off with two verb forms we haven't done yet, but we'll just look at those quickly. So remember we had like Jed dot N or Sedgem dot N plus subject. So verb plus N plus subject, that's a past tense. You can have a verb plus een plus subject, which is a specifically literary past tense. Gardner calls it a rather ornate literary tense. And it just means then. So it just means this happened next or something like that. Well, according to all the grammar books, it does. But I have my own ideas about that. But anyway, so what we've got is say, said, and it's then said, a shemsu. Now, a shemsu is literally a follower. It's got a man on the end. It's somebody who follows. Now, it's generally regarded that he's going to speak to the hearty R here. He's going to said the Jed the Shemsu. He's going to speak to the hearty R here. Now, the question is, the hearty R is somebody who's a courtier. It's somebody who's got a kind of place in the country or whatever. You know, it's like the kind of medieval barons or whatever, that they spend most of the time at court or fighting with the king or fighting on the alongside the king or whatever, or doing this thing. But they have to go back and collect the taxes and do the assizes and do the dispense justice and collect all the taxes, all those kind of things as well. So they spend most of the time in court. They usually translate this as prince, which is just a ridiculous translation. It's just one that's stuck from the 19th century. You don't have to be a member of the royal family at all to be a hearty R. Just means one who's foremost of arm or something like that. But a shemsu, it seems to me, is a title that you get. It's like being a sir or a knight or something. People often get promoted to shemsu like a follower. It means like kind of a follower of the king. It's one of the people who hangs around the king and hangs around like a bodyguard or something like that. So you usually get promoted to a shemsu after a feat of daring do. So the question is here is who is the higher ranking one, the Shemsu or the hearty R? So yeah, Stephen Quirk was the first one to point this out as well, which was interesting. He's often very good at pointing these things out. People, things which had just been established for absolutely years, but then he points out that this guy might actually be higher ranking, the Shemsu. But anyway, they say this is a follower. And then we've got this word icker. We've had this word before. Remember, it means being good at your job if it involves thinking. Remember, Ken means being good at your job if it involves hitting things, whether it's rocks or enemies or barley or whatever. But icker means good at your job. They usually translate it as trusty, but I'm not sure that's a very good translation. But icker, it just means yeah, I mean, we'll just keep trusty at the moment. So we've got the servant trusty. It's an adjective, so it's going to be the trusty follower. So we've got say, said, the trusty follower. Then the trusty follower said. There's no open quotes or anything in Egyptian. You just go straight into what the person said. Right, now let's have a look at this. So we've got, he's saying this. So he's saying this in this present moment, even though it's happening in the past tense. He's saying this to somebody. For them, it's the present. Okay, so we've got wedjar, which means like a flourish or to be at peace or all kinds of things like that. It just means to be happy or to flourish or something like that. Right. So and then we've got eb equals k. So your mind. So let's say wedjar means like to be at rest or to be at peace or something like that. Heart are like it could be heart re actually, uh, but yeah. So print. We'll just keep with the old translation to this. If you want to look it up in a translation in a book or something, it's going to have follower and print or whatever. Right. So we've got verb, your mind, print. So it's just addressing the prince there, so that doesn't matter. So we've got be at rest, your mind. So we've got two possibilities for this. It could be an imperative like rest your mind or something like that. Then the trusty follower said, may your mind be at rest, prince. Now you're thinking, where did I get may your mind be at rest? Because last time we had verb plus subject, it was a passive, wasn't it? Well, that's only in past narrative. He's not telling a story here, he's speaking directly to somebody. So we've got Wedjar Eve. See, if this were in the past tense, we said, then he said, and the prince's mind was at rest or whatever, then your mind was at rest or something like that. But you wouldn't be using you then anyway. But yeah, so may your mind be at rest. Now, where do we get that from? So basically, it's verb plus subject. And this is when it's at the beginning of a sentence, and it's virtually always at the beginning of direct speech, and it's in the present tense. So Sedgem F is just may he hear, or something like that. So you could have Sedgem Ek, may you hear, Sedgem N, may we hear. Yeah. So this is the beginning of speech. You're going to get this. So this is something to watch out for. You're only really going to see it at the beginning of speech. It appears loads in things like the coffin text and stuff as well. But the thing is, the coffin text, you are actually speaking to all the gods and things like that as well. So it's got this. But usually verb plus subject, when you see it in a story in the past tense, it's a passive. So that would mean he was heard. Okay, verb plus subject. So this is only at the beginning of a sentence, and that's what we've got here. And it's the beginning of direct speech. So if you want to look it up, it's in Allen. It calls it a subjunctive. Although in his new edition, he's changed his mind. But anyway, yeah. Right. So let's have a look what we've got next. Oh, I've got a question here. Why isn't the Ica part of the clause in red here? That's an interesting question, that actually. I wondered that myself. It's a good question, this, because what might have happened actually is that he started off with like then the servant said, like then he thought, like, oh bloody hell, I've put my red away, and he forgot to put trusty in or whatever. Yeah, it's a good question that way. It should really be in red as well, but yeah. Anyway, right, let's split this up then. Now, look for things that we know. Well, there's some plural strokes, aren't there? Okay. Got some legs there. Okay. And then at the beginning of a sentence here, we've got mech. Should have a round loaf in it, that, but you'll be pleased to know that the Shipwrecked Sailor doesn't distinguish between any kind of arm, whether it's got a round loaf in it, whether it's got a bowl in it, whether it's got a triangular loaf in it, whether it's got a stick in it, whether it's got a flail in it. The shipwrecked sailor, they describe the shipwrecked sailor, doesn't distinguish between any of them. So, but we've seen this sign last week, haven't we? Mech, meaning low or look. You've seen this word before, okay? Then we've got a house, which has not got a stroke next to it or anything, so it's going to be a determinative. Also, a word you've seen before that. There's another arm, which again should have a stick in it. Let's have a look. Now, we've got three alphabetic signs there, and then we've got a W. That's looking long already, isn't it? Because W's usually appear at the end of things. Then we've got a stick after it, so that's probably going to be something made of wood. Now, we've got two men next to each other, but that's going to be two determinatives. Okay. Because they see men doing anything always mark the end of a word, and only the seated man ever reads anything, and that's equals I. So yeah, and then we've got this word here. So right, let's see what we've got. So we've got mech first, then we've got this is the back end of a lion. Remember we had this with Sebeku, didn't we? So we had peck. So that's P plus H with a dot. Now we've got N. We've got a verb plus N plus a suffix pronoun, plural first person one. So that's us or we. Yeah. Okay, we've got N equals N. Remember, suffix pronouns have got to be attached to something. Okay, and then we've got the empty goat skin. So that's hen. So we've got hen plus N. That's N there. Plus nu plus W. So remember, that's a convoluted writing of that. So hen is phonetic complement for that, N. And then whenever you have an N and a W together, they can't help writing a new pot. So the whole thing is just, oops, should have kept that W, but it's henu, okay? This is a triliteral sign. This is the picket fence off a pre-dynastic temple. Yeah, oh, sorry, is that chat? Oh, okay, oh, sorry, that was something else. Yeah, and it's a triliteral which reads shesep, and it means to seize or to grab. Okay, then we just got three alphabetic signs, herep, and then we've got a W, so herepu. Now we just got one sign here, H with a dot, with two determinatives. Now, the reason we got two determinatives on this, which is really weird, this is one of the peculiarities of the Shipwrecked Sailor, is that one of the guys he draws, which isn't his standard hieroglyphs, always when he has a man with a stick, he does a guy with a kind of cloak on him as well. This guy leaning forward, this one, and he's got a kind of cloak on, and then it's got a normal man with a stick after it. So it's a very odd way of doing this. But often scribes, they have these idiosyncrasies, so people can recognize that it was them who did it. You know how, like, famous masters, like old masters or something, always draw a particular thing in their paintings or whatever. I think this is one of the things as well, that this marks out this as the scribe who draws the cloaks or whatever. Then we've got men, so that's M and N. So men plus N. Then we've got E, then T, and then we've got, that's a tent peg and a piece of wood. So it's something made of wood for tent peg, and it is in fact a mooring post. That. Right, let's have a look what we've got then. So we've got mech, so low, peck, dot N equals N. So you should always go for that first. If you've got a verb, then you've got followed by an N, followed by a suffix pronoun, it's going to be a past tense. So then we've got henu, which is home, shesep, to seize, herepu is a mallet, like a wooden hammer, H is to strike or to hit. We'll come to that in a moment, that verb. And then menit is the mooring post. It's this thing. You bang it into the riverbank and then you tie your boat to it. Right, so what we've got here. So we've got mech plus verb plus N plus subject, which is the first person plural. So that's we, isn't it? Okay. So the second one, we've got a verb, seize, and then we've got a mallet or a hammer, if you wish. So we've got verb plus subject. Then again, we've got verb. This is actually a really weird verb, this. As long as it's got an H with a dot in it, a man with a stick, the Egyptians don't really care how they spell it, it seems. You get, the verb is generally regarded as being hui. It's a weak verb. This is it's HW with an I in brackets. But you get all these really weird forms. You get heck, you get hook, you get weck, you get hecky, you get wecky, you get thing. As long as it's got an H with a dot and a man with a stick, they don't seem to care how they spell it. It doesn't seem to follow any rules as well, whether it's subjunctive or what it follows or anything like that as well. It just seems to be one which people just write however they feel it. Right, so that gives us this. So verb plus n plus subject is going to be a past tense, isn't it? So it's going to be this person doing this. Now, verb plus subject. See, we've got past narrative, haven't we? Mech. So we start off, we know it's in the past because we got peck.n equals n. So here we've got subject, we've got verb plus subject. So that's going to be a passive. It's not going to be like, we have reached home. Look, we've reached home. May you seize, well, I suppose it could be that actually, past passive. So that's going to be a past passive as well. So what we're going to have is, we've got, look, we have arrived home. Remember, the present perfect is the best thing after mech. The mallet has been seized. The mooring post has been struck. Okay. I mean, you could, in theory, have may the mallet be seized or may the mooring post be struck, but what he's doing is emphasizing how we've actually managed to get home after all this kind of trouble. We don't know what all the trouble was, but obviously there's been some kind of trouble when you read the rest of the text. So yeah. So you take these as passives. The best thing to do in a past narrative thing is to take these as passives. So no n in there, so it's going to be a passive. You see no n there, but here we have an n. So we have a subject on it. The subject is the one doing the action, okay? So it's going to be, look, we have reached home. It should be reached that rather than arrived, yeah. The mallet, the subject here, has been seized. The mooring post has been struck, okay? Look, we have reached home. The mallet has been seized and the mooring post is struck. Okay. So you see, it's like the Papyrus Westcar, isn't it? Something like that. So he brought the goose and its head was cut off. You do get these long strings of things, and so we're going to come. I was going to see some more of them coming up as well. So. Right, this is a bit trickier. Just look for things that you know. Look for things that you know. Well, there's two obvious things here. There's this. We've got a stroke under it. Then we've got tar with a stroke as well. Also, that should have a round loaf in it, and that is red eat. So when we look at this, we think, what's this doing here? Now, you look at you think that might be a W, but in fact, it's not quite the same. That's in fact a rope determinative. Now, so remember this reads hat, triliteral, front half of a lion. There's T, phonetic complement, then another T. So what we've got there is heartet. So we've got heartet, ready, T, her, tar. Okay, now her tar is easy enough, isn't it? That's on the land. And a heartet is a prow rope. But the question is what we're going to do with this ready with a T on it. Now, I've got an I in brackets there because this is something, this means the prow rope has been placed on land. And this is what we call a stative. Now, these are fairly common. In fact, they're really the only way of doing verbs in Old Egyptian. Well, not the only way, but they're the most common way of doing things in Old Egyptian. Now, a stative describes the state which is the subject is in, not an action. So it's the end result of an action, not the action itself. You do actually use these in English as well, in especially in Old English, like in Shakespeare and things as well. You know all these things with accents on, like says he's blessed, in a blessed state, or he's cursed, or whatever as well. It means in a state of having been blessed, or he's in a state of having been cursed, or whatever. So it's not the actual action. It's not he was cursed. It's like he is in a state of having been cursed. So yeah, it's the end result of an action. So just to illustrate this, let's see if this works. So Senjamin F, we've done this. That means he heard. So I lay down. So that would be why does this not work when I do this thing? But anyway, so I laid down. So a state would be I am lying down. So I am in the state resulting from having lain down. Okay. Right. Yeah. So again, so said Germain F, I died in the battle, or he died in the battle. So he performed the action of dying, like splat. He's like that. So okay, perform the action of dying. So that's Sejam NF. That's the action. We saw this thing, but I am dead. So I am in the state resulting from having died. Okay. Right. So it's the state resulting from an action. Okay. So recognizing the stative. Now, statives are usually subject first constructions. They're written subject plus verb plus stative ending. I've put subjects in brackets there because you don't always have the subject, especially when it's a pronoun. It's always there, but luckily, the endings that are really quite distinctive for statives, especially the first person. They're quite easy to recognize the first person and the second person and the third person feminine. So let's have a look at the endings here. So you'll have this sheet anyway with this thing because we've got so you got the determinative plus coup. So it's just like that's really easy to spot. It usually has a man on the end as well. So it's coup with a man on the end. Yeah, the second one. So if you're talking to you are in a state of having done something, that's masculine or feminine, is T. So, or it's a T plus determinative. Okay. We've got the way we've got it here. Ready doesn't have a determinative, so you're not going to have a T. So right. So the transliteration is T. So you notice I put that in brackets and the thing we'll see in a moment when we get back anyway. So yeah. So third masculine doesn't always have an ending, but it should be W or the shorter version of W plus determinative. Okay, that one goes on the inside of the determinative. Okay. So transliteration is just dot W. Third feminine, you'll notice, is unfortunately the same as the second masculine and feminine. So she is in a state of having done something. Plural endings, you hardly ever see these. But this one, determinative plus ween, determinative plus tuny. The third masculine one is generally thought to be dot W as well, but in my opinion, I don't think there is an ending for the third masculine. I don't think there is one at all. People just say it's missed off, but in fact, I don't think there ever is one for it. And when there is one, it's they're treating the whatever the word is as a singular. Right, so let's have a look at some examples then. Anyway, let's have a look at some examples. Right, this is Amenemhat the first. He's setting the scene for his murder. This is from the teach of Amenemhat for his son. What happens in this one is basically he tells all his son about how to be a good king and everything as well. But this is the evidence for him being murdered is the one this text, which is in fact the most popular text in ancient Egyptian. It's not Sinewy, which we hear about so often and things as well, but I think we have 180 different copies of this. I mean, not all complete, obviously. It's quite a few complete ones, but we've got 180 different versions of this. So it's the one we've got most of. But anyway, he says, he tells the story of how he got murdered, basically. And he says, if I had a sword in my hand when those cowards came from me in the night and this stuff as well. So what we've got here, let's have a look at the things here. So we've got there's a man doing something, being dead on the thing, so that's the end of something. But then we've got that distinctive ending, coup, and then we've got her. It should have a stroke next to it, really. Now we have a ridiculously convoluted writing of a word. See, we've got a structure thing on the end of that. You'll see it is a kind of structure, this. And then we've got an equals I on the end. Right, so we've got s, jer, R as a phonetic complement. So Sedja, which means to lie down. Then we've got the state of ending. Then we've got her on. Now this is actually just her. Then we've got hen and then n. So what we've got her plus hen plus n. But you see, this is the same as that one, so that one can go. N the same as that one as go. So it just reads hen that. But then we've got hen, k, y, and then we've got the T right at the end. So what's all this guff here? I mean, look at it here. Look at the state of it there. Look at all that. This word. It's just ridiculously complicated word. So we've got a piece of cloth for some reason we've got a hand with an offering bowl in, and we've got a structure thing there, and we've got plural strokes. So it's made of different bits of cloth, something to do with offering bowls, and it's a structure. Believe it or not, this is actually his bed. This is actually the word for bed. So Henkit is a bed. So it's got all these determinants on it. I'm not sure what the offering bowl has to do with it, but if you look at the actual pictures we've got of beds and things, they are kind of these canopied structures, like four-poster beds and things, raised up off the floor, made of brick. Especially in Amana, we've got loads of them in Amana, which they're kind of up off the floor in bricks, and then smoothed off, obviously, with this thing. And then they make a mattress out of straw or out of cloth and things. Then you've got all these different things and canopies and stuff, like hence the determinative there with the material and things, and hence the structure. You've got the bricks, but you've also got the canopy and things on the top. And then we've got equals I, my bed. So what we've got here is Sedja ku her henkit e. So Sedja to lie down. So then we've got ku. So we've got the stative ending there. Then we've got on my bed. Okay. So what we've got here, this means basically I was lying down on my bed, or I had laid down on my bed. It's often good to translate these with the pluperfect. I had laid down. Yeah, it means literally I was in the state of having laid down. So Sedja means to lie down. So I was in a state of having laid down. In English, you just say I had lain down on my bed, or you could say, because this is not a verb form, it's actually a state that he's in. It's not an action. Say I was lying down on my bed. It's not an action. It's just how he's ended up lying down because he lay down on his bed. Okay. So that's an example of this thing in the state. So I was in a state of having laid down on my bed, or I had laid down on my bed, or I was lying down on my bed. So it's not an action. He's not actually, this doesn't describe him lying down. So he might have said like sedja.n equals e, which meant like I lay down on my bed, but he doesn't. He said he's already done that and he's lying down on his bed. He's in a state. So the action resulting from lying down on his bed. So either I was lying down or I had laid down on my bed. Okay. Right. We can use this in main sentence as well. Like this. This is another part of the Shipwrecked Sailor from much further on, which is the ship, which is a description of the magic island. Now look for things that we know. Okay, well, there's you at the beginning. We've seen that, haven't we? That's always a good thing, beginning a section or a sentence. Then we got F after it. So you need not to hang the F as a papyrus roll. Plural strokes. You've got neb with a T on there. What about all this? Now, obviously, you've learnt all your prepositions. So we've got her under there. So that looks like that's just a plural for neferet, isn't it? With that. So. Right, so what we've got UF mech. Now I've put that in W because its subject is first, and then we've got the verb afterwards. I put the W in brackets because it's not written there. You don't have to write it with the third person, especially like that. So we've got literally, so it, mech means to fill something. So we've got it was in a state of having been filled under good things. Nebet agreeing there. All good things. Nefret Nebet. I've not put a W in there. So maybe I should put a W in there. I think I've just been noticing this stuff I've been reading actually just this week that I think everybody's going with Alan that's without putting these W's in for the feminine plural, just having the ending as T as well. But there's probably a slight difference in pronunciation because in fact the W is never written in Neferut. It's hardly ever written in like Neferu either with a plural. So anyway, so it's in Egyptian you say it's filled under like all good things. So what we've got, so it was in a state of having been filled with all good things. Okay, so what we've got that. So see the W ending there. So mech, put the W in brackets there. It was full of all good things. So it was full. So it was in a state of having been filled with all good things. Okay. We can have this one as well. Let's have a look at things that we've got here. So look for the things that you know here. Right, we've got Akanuti there. We've seen that before. We haven't seen the title, the overseer of the Akanuti. For some reason, it's got a stroke there. That's just to fill up the space, I think. I think he's just realised he's not done the per big enough. So better put a stroke next to it. See, it's here on the thing there. This is not, if you look on there, you suddenly realised, oh, I've done my per sign too small. Can't leave a space there. Demons might get in. Right, now have a look for things we know. Okay, there's eam, isn't it? We're not going to, that's not going to be any other word with a determinative on it, is it? So it's going to be eam there. Then we've got a loaf. See, we've got three letters there. Fekar. Yeah. And then we've got that's an offering loaf, that. So that's probably going to be determinative, isn't it? And then we've got ku. We haven't got the man on the end. And for the usual reason we haven't got the man on the end is because there is the man on the end of it. Okay. Right. So straightforward. Fekar dot ku im arkanuti. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, sorry, I've done that right. So it's actually Fekar we. Is the I is replacing the man there. Okay. So Fekar qui m arkanuti, or Fekar ku m arkanuti. Okay. Right. So Fekar means to reward somebody or something. So Fekar reward. So we've got ku first person. So I was in a state of having been rewarded in the audience chamber. So have that. So there's your ending. So we've got a reed leaf instead of a man there. Okay. So I was rewarded in the audience chamber. Right. Okay. Now this is a verb which just about always appears in the stative. This is the verb wreck. What it doesn't mean, it means to learn or to find out normally, but it's virtually always used in the stative. In the stative, it means to know something. So it's I'm in a state of having found out, or I'm in a state of having learnt that this is the case. I mean, like, I know that this is the case. This is from Westcar. Remember the story about the wax crocodile? But this is from the a further along story about Jedi, a magician who is very rude to the crown prince and gets loaded onto a raft with all these books and his scrolls and everything and taken to the king. And he's the one who does the magic trick with the goose. And then it's great. After he's done that magic trick with the goose, the one he did for homework, the king says, "Wow, that's really good." Says, "Do it with a cow." He does it with a cow, and he says, "Wow, that's even better." He says, "Go and fetch me a prisoner." And Jedi's like, "Oh, no, 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 you can't do it to noble cattle. You can't do it to a prisoner," which kind of implies that maybe, it really is a trick or something like that. But anyway, yeah. So this is where he tells the magician why he has been summoned to court. Right. So again, let's have a look at breaking this up. So we've got you, the papyrus roll there. Now, it's not going to be correct. Rec is a verb you should learn anyway. It's very common. So we've got you, and then we've got the suffix pronoun. So there we've got our subject. So it's going to be you. Okay. Then we've got the state of ending. You see, that goes with that, doesn't it? That's the second person masculine and feminine. There we've got the second person there as the subject. So yeah. Another convoluted word. Let's see what there. So we've got the throw stick at the end there. We've had this before, haven't we? And then because you've drawn a throw stick, it has to draw a bird. And the reason we have the throw stick in there is because it has 10. The verb has 10. The word has 10 in it. So we've got 10. Then we've got new. Then, of course, because it's got new in it, because it's got an N and a W, you have to put the new pot in as well. So the word is in fact just tenu. Then a throw stick because it's got 10 in it. The word has absolutely nothing to do with throw sticks. And then you've got a bird because you've drawn a throw stick in it. And then we've got, there's something else you should have learnt. Na N. Remember, that's the plural demonstrative. So it's the. Yeah. And we've got epet. And then this is a kind of thing there. So we've got plural strokes there. So that's going to be the end of a word. And then we look what we've got. There's the other end of a thing there. But look, there's net. You know that. That's an indirect genitive, isn't it? You see, we've got a T there. We've got a T there. So you know you're on the right track. And then again, we've got net again. T there, T there. Then we've got the god Jehuti. This one here, this falcon on a stick, that's a god determinative. You're always going to have a god before that. Or sometimes you have Neb, like a lord, when it means like a god, or when it means like a pharaoh or something. But it's usually determinative for a god when they don't draw the seated guy. Right. Okay. Right. So the transliteration of this is U ek recti tenu na en epet net wenet net jeheti. Right, okay, so there we've got the stative ending there, haven't we? And you see that we've got the T, but you see that goes with the K there, doesn't it? So basically we've got you as in, we've got you, but we've also got you as in Y-O-U. So you are in a state of having found out tenu is a number. The number, then we've got the chambers or secret chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth. Okay. So literally it's you are in a state of having found out, and this is what how Egyptian where you say you know the number of the secret chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth, or the sealed chambers, the sanctuary of the enclosure of Thoth. Okay. And then the king goes on to say, I've been looking for those for ages and I've never known this thing. And he says, and then Jenny gives him a kind of prophecy about how it could be your son and then his son or whatever and all kinds of things. But yeah. Right. So you see, this is the way you use the rec to know, because it means literally to find out or to learn something. But in the stative, it means to know something. Okay. So you know the number of the sequence. Okay. In a main sentence with a state of a verb of motion, that sounds more complicated than it actually is, but the beginning of a sentence, you don't write, if you just want to say I went or I went down, a verb of motion is virtually anything with a pair of legs on it. If you want to say I went, I came, like I arrived, all those kind of things, at the beginning of a sentence, you can't say Sejam NF. You can't say, for instance, here, ha dot n equals e in Egyptian. You can't say at the beginning of a sentence, I went down. You've got to use a stative at the beginning of a sentence. So this is from the start of the story that the shipwrecked sailor tells his superior, if he is his superior. So what we've got ha with a pair of legs. Then we've got the ku, so the stative ending. So look what else we've got. Right, well, there we've got an M there, haven't we? And then depet, you've seen that before, haven't you? Boat. So let's split this up. Now, that's going to be really long if we keep the R on the front of it, because we've got a were bird there. We've got that. So that's going to be the preposition R. And then we've got a triliteral waj, which has its phonetic consonant over it. Then we've got were, like great. That's actually waj were, which means the great green. And this is what the Egyptians used to call the sea. The great green. So anyway, so what we've got here is we've got ha ku r wajwer m depet. So the r wajwer is like, so to the great green or to the sea in a boat. So we've got ha kui. So it's like, it's literally, I was in a state of having gone down. The verb hai means to go down. So when Egyptians say you go down to the river or you go down to the sea, means you go off sailing or whatever and things. So what we've got, it's literally, I was in a state of having gone down to the Wajwa in a boat, to the Great Green in a boat. So in English, you would say, because he's telling a story in this thing, like got the coup ending there. I had gone down to the sea in a boat. Okay. So you have to use a stative with verbs of motion at the beginning of a thing. So again, it was same with aha.n. with that. So the Stealer of Howrah, Kadim. We've actually seen this one before, haven't we? Remember when it wasn't the time for coming to the mining land because it was too hot. So what we've got here now, let's have a look at things we know. There's aha.n. Okay, now we've got a man straight after it. So there's our subject, aha.is. You can attach a person onto this when you've got a subject first construction. A pair of legs. Okay, and then we've got the coup. And we've got our tar, and then you know this, pen. It's a demonstrative. Should be a stroke next to tar, but there isn't. So, yeah. I'm not making any apologies for the Egyptians saying there should be a stroke, that they made a mistake or whatever, because, who are we to say whether they made a mistake or whether it was perfectly acceptable, because there wasn't room or it didn't fit into a nice square. So, yeah. So we've got aha.n, then we join this onto that equals e. So that gives us the subject I. Then we've got sepa, means to arrive. Ku, so I was in a state of having arrived at this land. So aha.ni sepaku artar pen. And this is just the way of saying, literally, I was in a state of having arrived, but this is to say then I arrived at this land, because again it's a verb of motion. So again, you have to use a stative for verbs of motion. I mean, in English, you notice as well that verbs of motion are a bit weird, like to go and things like that as well, because you say went, don't you, as well? And been says I have been is basically it's the same as the verb to be as well, isn't it? So it's pretty similar. So I was in a state of having gone. So I've been, I was at the shops or whatever. So yeah. Okay. State is an adverbial expression. Excuse me. Right, the shipwrecked sailor's just been shipwrecked on the Magic Island. Here we've got ear.n equals e. So ear.n equals e. So we've got ear to pass or to do. Dot n did equals I did 3 days. So in Egyptian, say I spent, or I did 3 days. So I did 3 days, and now we've got wa ku with the ending there. Wa is the verb which means to be alone. So wa ku means like in a state of being alone. So in English, you could just say that. So I spent 3 days. I was in a state of being alone. So in English, you would just say alone. Like, so my mind as my double or my companion. Okay. And then we've got Sejaku. So I was in a state of having lain down henu, so inside of a shelter of wood. Okay. That's the same as we had with the Eminem had the first there as well, asleep or lying down. So I spent 3 days alone in a state of having been alone, my mind as my companion, I having lain down, or I having gone to sleep in the interior of a wooden shelter. So, right. So this brings us back to the shipwrecked sailor. So what we've got here, we've got hartep, so the prow rope, so ready means to put. We've got the T ending there, you see, got T there, and T there. Put that in brackets. So you need to do that just to show that you know that it's a stative and you've translated it as such. That you put the I in brackets there, so it's T, because you know that's the stative ending. So what we've got literally is the prow rope placed is in a state of having been placed on the land. And again, like when you're talking to people about something that's just happened, it's best thing to use is a present perfect. So the prow rope has been placed on land. Literally, the prow rope is in a state of having been placed on land. Okay. Right. Okay. Right, what comes next? So let's have a look. There's ready again. Again, should have a triangular loaf in it. So ready. There's a man with a hand to his mouth, isn't it there? So okay, so that's going to be the end of something. And again, we've got that new pot with the N and the W, so that looks like a reasonable word, doesn't it? We've got a God there. And then we've got another man. We've got 2 men here. We've got one raising his arms praising, the other one pointing to his mouth. So that means that neither of those can be the equals I, because neither of them are just the man sitting there minding his own business. Right. So let's see what we've got. We've got ready, then we've got hekenu, and then that's something to do with coming out of the mouth or something like that. And hekenu means praise. This one's slightly trickier here. We've got duar, which means to praise, and again, something coming out of the mouth. So we've got two men. He's praising with his arms, and he's praising by singing or whatever. And we've got the God here. Okay. So what we've got, if we look at this list there, so we've got ready hekenu. So we've got place, praise or giving praise. Okay. And then we've got praising God. It's quite difficult to do this. So what we've got, verb plus subject. See, no N there. So it's going to be a passive, isn't it? Past passive. So praise has been given, or praise is being given, or God has been praised. Okay. So it's a passive. So So God has been praised. Okay. So praise has been given and God has been thanked. Because this is what you actually do. It's when you say thank you in Egyptian, you praise the god N somebody or other. So you praise the god N on behalf of like my friend Amenemhat. So you say that's how you say I thanked my friend Amenemhat. Say I praise the god N on behalf of my friend Amenemhat or whatever. Or I thanked the workmen for their work. So basically, you praise the god on behalf of somebody. But we've not got anybody particular here, so this is just God has been praised. So God has been thanked. So okay, it's like saying thank you for a safe journey or whatever. So praise has been given, God has been thanked. Right, let's have a look. Well, we've got a man there, stroke next to him. Now we've got her, the stroke next to it. So that leaves us in the middle. So we know that's a word anyway, don't we? Let's have a look. That arm should have a stick in it, really. But, so that's going to mark the end of a word. Oh, here's somebody a question here. So people still say praise God in that way. Yeah. No, it is to praise God for somebody. So yeah, to thank somebody. So yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah. So that's going to be the end of a word, and then we've got biliteral sen, and then again we've got this bloody new pot with we've got an N and a W. So that's just going to be senu, and then we've got a person. But then this can't be an equals I, can it? Because we've got an equals F straight after it. So this has got to be the word here, hasn't it? It's got to finish here, the word. So we've got a man plus a Y. Right. So we've got S, a man, neb, S neb. So it's not going to be a lord here, is it? It's going to be an adjective. So every man, her, upon. Now, hepet means to embrace. Now, you don't actually need the stick. You can just do with these hugging arms, like hepet, or hepi it is actually. It's a weak verb. So if it's hepet, what does that tell you? It's going to be an infinitive, isn't it? So that gives you a clue as about what this sentence is about. But hepi, anyway, you can just do it with the arms there. But this has got an arm with a stick, so it's force and violence and effort. So it probably means something like vigorously embracing or something like that as well, or tightly embracing. And then we've got senwi equals F. Okay, so what we've got here is S neb, hepet, senwi equals F. So let's break this up. Now, as I said before, hepi is a weak verb, so that is going to be the infinitive, isn't it? So what we've got here, we've got her plus infinitive. We know that's a construction, what we've done before. We've got S neb as a subject. So what we've got is S neb, so every man upon hugging. Now, sen we equals F means his companion or his double or his mate or whatever as well. So what we've got is pseudo-verbal, isn't it? It's subject plus her plus infinitive. So every man is embracing his companion. Okay. So you see, we've got another verb form there we've done before. You see, we're getting everything in here that we've done on this course so far. Right, and then we've got, again, plural strokes. And then you should recognize that immediately. 10 is the alternative form of the of chen, which is the second person plural. Yeah, then we've got ii, pair of legs there with a T on the end of it. Could be an infinitive. And then we've got arge with a T on the end. But you see what we've got, how you recognize that this is going to be a stator is because we've got e-suit, which means a crew. So your crew. You think that should really be our crew, but it's like your plural crew. I don't know why he's using that there particularly. But see, we've got the subject first, haven't we? So if it was going to be, well, first of all, we've got ee.t as well. So we got that at the end. So we can't have ee.n e-suit, can we? Because you can't start a sentence with, you have to use a stative when you use a past tense with a thing like that. So then so you think like, oh yeah, so that is going to be a stative, isn't it? So we got the subject first, unlike the normal order, which is usually verb, then subjects in Egyptian. So EET. So what we've got literally is your crew, your plural crew for some reason, should really be our crew. EE means to come, is in a state of having arrived. Then arge means to be in one piece, in a state of being in one piece. So we've got subject, verb plus T ending, verb plus T ending. So that's going to be a stative. So it's going to be our crew is in a state of having arrived, in a state of being in, and in a state of being intact. Okay. So our crew has arrived intact. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right, now more things we've done before as well. Let's have a look for things that we know here. Right, okay, well, there's something definitely marking the end of a word. Got a bad bird. Plural strokes and first person plural. Now, how are we going to break up this? Well, we've got nen, haven't we? We've seen that one last week, haven't we, doing negatives and things? Well, it might have been the week before. Then that leaves us this word nehu. This is one of the few, this always catches people out, this as well. And it's also really annoying as well, is because it's one of the few words that begins with N, but they don't always write the N. So for some reason, in the giant German dictionary, because that's not always written for, I don't know why they do this, but they put nehu under who. So you can't find it when you're trying to use the big German dictionary unless you know that it's under who and not nehu. But the most common spelling is nehu, but sometimes they don't write the N. So nehu means a loss or something like that. So, and then let's have a look at this word. Well, we've got this picture of a soldier and a man there. Now, the word can't be just N, can it? Because you can't really have one letter words. There's very few one letter words. So we've got this word we've seen before is meshar plus a man determinative plus plural strokes. Then equals N. So it's meshar equals N. So it's our meshar. So what we've got nen, nehu, n, meshar equals n. Now we've got various ways of translating this because remember, nen is literally like there is not, or there is not a loss of our soldiers. That's what it means literally, a loss of our soldiers. So there is not a loss of our soldiers, or is not a missing thing of our soldiers. So we could either have there was no loss of our soldiers, like there did not exist the loss of our soldiers. Our soldiers had no loss as well because we've got the n in there. Remember the possessive, like we did these things as well. Or we can have the nen when used as a conjunction when it follows on from something else, is without losing any of our soldiers. So there's lots of ways of translating this. It's probably only really one in Egyptian, but for us, we've actually got several ways of translating this. So, yeah. I mean, the basic meaning is we didn't lose anybody at all. They always like to do these in these expeditions. Is that the classic thing is says what we just said, my army arrived intact, like there was no loss among them. This thing, but the funny thing is that he's saying this, he's doing this. This is the classic thing of the cliche, but when you actually read the rest of the story, everything goes wrong. His expedition doesn't really less. Not only did they not lose any soldiers, they lose all their soldiers, like in the expedition he's talking about, where he ends up on the island. This one seems to be a successful one because it's got the standard thing. Our crew has arrived intact, like without a loss among them. This is what you always write on your stealer in Sinai and things. This, but when he's talking about the what happened to him with the on the boat when he got wrecked, it's basically the opposite. So it's not only did he not arrive intact, he lost all these soldiers except him. Right. Okay. Right, now we've got this thing again, peck to reach with the legs on. And then we've got, again, same as before, haven't we? N equals N. Then we've got, this is like Pekwi. And then Wawat. Okay, it's a foreign land, name of a foreign land. So if you get that without the T and the stroke, it's going to be the name of a foreign land. Okay, got legs again. Then we've got N and N. Okay. And then we've got another foreign land there. So that's going to be the name of it before it, which is SN Moot. Okay. So what we've got all together is pec.n equals n, pequi wawat. This is a great expression. You say the pequi of a land, it means literally the buttocks of a land. Or because pequi, this is what you call the dual ending. We'll do those in the next course. The things which come in twos, like legs or arms or buttocks in this case. So what we've got here is arrive. We arrived at the buttocks of Wawat, which means basically the far end of Wawat. Yeah, they still say, still say that like the arse end of nowhere or whatever and things like that. The Egyptians use the same expression as well. Seni means to pass. So again, we've got dot n equals n, which makes it a past tense. And then Senmut is Biga. It's the island. It's one of these long string of fortresses that the 12th dynasty started making to protect the Nubian thing. And they're mostly at the cataracts and to stop people coming up in boats and things as well. Right. So Peck to reach, dot n. So reached equals n. We reached, like the back end of Wawat. We to pass, so passed, we passed Senmut. Now, notice on this is important because this is important for the next course and things, not just Egyptian grammar in general. There is no aha.n or u or mech in front of any of these, is there? And they're not statives either. So you can't be starting a sentence. So what we've got here is, so you've got your main sentence, you aha.mech, like the ones we've got. So you said gem dot n equals f. So that's straightforward. He heard. Aha.n, said gem dot n equals f. Then he heard. Mech, lo, he has heard. Okay. So that's a main sentence. Or you can just have you, e. So I arrived, sepa qui. So I'm in a state where I arrived. Now that's a main sentence. This is a main sentence. This is like putting a full stop and a capital letter and starting a new sentence. But the thing is, when you put a sejm nf after one of these without a u, you could have another one saying aha.n. The Shipwrecked Sailor is actually very fond of this, saying, then he heard, then he went, then he did this. You could use strings of aha.n. The Shipwrecked Sailor does that all the time. It's a really boring style. But if you've not got any of these things, it basically means I or I did something having heard. So to give you an example, like in English, if you think about it like this, say, I went down to Harrods having heard that there was a sale on. So this is something that happened before. He heard there was a sail on, so he went down to Harrods. So it's either it's because I went. He could say this. I went down to Harrods, having heard there was a sail on, which is the same, basically, as saying because I had heard there was a sail on. So it's like I went on my trip having packed carefully as well. But that's the same thing. That action happened before, but it's not because one there. It's not I went to my trip because I had packed carefully. So it just depends on the context, whether it's just having done something before or having heard, or because you'd done something before. So what we've got, our crew has arrived intact without losing any of its officers. So it's basically we having reached the back end of Wawat, we having passed Senamut, so the fortress of Bega. So you put that having reached the end of Wawat and having gone past Senmut. So this is important that we've got nothing on the beginning of that. Okay. So you've got to remember that it's a straightforward past tense if it's got you or aha.n or it's a stative, like of a verb of motion, or it's got mech. But if it hasn't got that, it's going to be having done this. Or there are other options as well, but we'll cover those in the next course. Okay. Right. Homework. Right, it's the homework scribe. Last time you see him on this course. Transliterate and translate the following. Sebek, who gets his reward for bravery from the king. So what we're looking for, see, we've got Senjamin F form, so verb plus N plus E, or mech plus verb plus N plus subject. So straightforward past tense is like he heard or whatever. We got aha.n or then. Yeah. And then we've got a collection of things. So yeah, bark is used in the sense of works, so wrought metal here. So basically, transliterate to translate, or if you're at the class, is adding any notes necessary to justify your translation. Okay, so this will be translating a proper piece of autobiography by yourself, and I'm sure you're all capable of it because judging by all the homeworks and things I get and the things that people say that so it's yeah. So just remember all your rules about splitting up text, and if you don't know them, just have the sheet next to you and have a look at the rules and things. And the main thing is in these, look for things that you know. Okay, so you know aha.n, don't you? And then you've got a verb plus n plus a subject. Yeah. Here again, we've got low plus a verb plus n plus subject. Okay. There you see we've got an ideogram. Then we've got a man on the end, so that's going to be the suffix pronoun, isn't it? Because it's not going to be an ideogram with a man determinative on it, is it? So ideograms don't have determinatives. So yeah, just go through all the stuff you've done, things that you know, and this is what we're expecting. This. Look for the things you're expecting. The splitting up verbs, splitting up sheet. I can't even say splitting up texts sheet, and then just look for things that you know as well. There's nothing we haven't done here. Nothing we haven't done at all. Okay. Right. A lot to take in today, but it's all on sheets and things, which I'll put on the Google Drive as soon as we finish here. So, any questions? I know you're probably spinning, your head is spinning now, or whatever, from all this stuff, but we're actually now pretty close to have done all the grammar that you need to translate Egyptian texts, like autobiographies and things, and some more as well. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. Any more questions? And don't forget to sign up for the next course as well. Right. I'll thank you everybody for persevering through the course, and So I've been very impressed with the standard of the homework and things in this course. And as I say, you're learning a very difficult language. You're learning a thing like it's with a very difficult script. So yeah, so I think you should all pat yourselves on the back for done so well. Got this far, but you'll make it till the end if you do the next one as well. You'll have just about everything you need. Translates them. Oh, that's true. Yes. Yeah. So if I don't see you at the social session or I don't see you before or anybody, have a great holiday season, whether you celebrate or not.
I pop back on screen to echo Joseph's well wishes for the holiday season. I think I might see some of you on Thursday, but if not, yeah, I hope you have a lovely time. Otherwise, hopefully, we'll see some of you in our social session that is going to follow immediately after this webinar. So I popped the link in the chat earlier on. So if you just click that link, or it's in your email that you recently received as well, just give us a couple of minutes to close this webinar and reopen the meeting, and then you can pop cameras on and microphones on and chat with your fellow attendees and ask more questions. So hopefully see you there soon. If not, thank you all so much for attending this intermediate level. And yeah, if we won't see you in the next session. We'll see you in January for that Beyond Intermediate Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphs, which again is available to book now. So hopefully see you then. If not, ready to switch over to the social, Joseph? Oh, you're muted. Don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I am ready.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and see you soon in some capacity. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.